All right, Harrison Bader, first of all, welcome to San Francisco. Welcome to Scottsdale. I want to take you back, way back. We don't see that many guys who grew up in New York City who become baseball players. What were the challenges of that for you growing up in the city and trying to, get to this point?
I feel like that's a great question to lead with, honestly. I think the biggest thing is just like the space. Working out indoors constantly during the winter where there wasn't any space to go outside, either due to snow, weather, or just lack of baseball fields. Then as you kind of progress into the spring seasons and then ultimately like in the summer, same issue. There's a lot of people with fewer baseball fields, so the time was very limited. And then, additionally, not to complain at all, but the fields aren't exactly like kept very well. So that's the main reason why I play the outfield actually, is because I was genuinely scared of fielding ground balls. So.
Well, you said that on your Zoom, and I was like, yeah, probably a lot of weird hops.
Yeah, terrible hops. Yeah. Just the fields they weren't maintained very well. So, I think just the spacing thing. But I mean, in many ways, all of those like challenges ultimately became kind of the driving force behind being successful and ultimately getting out of New York City baseball. Because when we did get the opportunity to travel down south, when I was, in high school, I played for the New York Grays baseball organization, which is run by David Owens and still going very strong, still sending kids to school, still receiving plenty of scholarships so kids can use baseball kind of as a vehicle for their education. So when we did get to travel down south, namely Marietta, Fort Myers, Jupiter, all these places, kind of these like perfect game hubs, we kind of felt like we were like unleashed onto these like gorgeous manicured fields and in the sun, and it was warm. So, in many ways, I guess the challenges which did exist, they really were, it turned out to be beneficial because as I kind of progressed, I remembered how difficult it was to kind of get my training in. So as challenging as it was, it was great. And I try to reiterate that to kids, in the inner city playing in New York, that it is difficult. And we have Instagram, we see kids on fields and everything right now, but use this and remember this and use this as fuel to kind of propel yourself forward, because there are players who have managed to escape, and I'm no different than anybody else. I'm not special. I just love to play and I love to work hard. So, yeah, I think that's kind of the New York City story about baseball.
I'll take you all the way then to now, where you hit free agency again. You get another shot at this. We know why you made so much sense for the Giants defensively there in center field. Why did they make sense for you?
Well, the biggest thing was opportunity for me. Everybody wants to talk about free agency contracts and money, and that's fine. I understand, but in order to get more money and get more years under your belt and be effective, you need opportunity. You need to be on the field. You need to be on the field as often as possible. It's always been my goal to play as many innings in center field and get as many at-bats as possible in a given season. So for me, the Giants made perfect sense because of the opportunity. And I imagine that being, an intense role in center field where I'm playing a lot more than I have in the past. And, I've really been training for that my entire career. I think many organizations enjoy plugging and playing and platooning and whatnot, but I'm going to continue to prove that I don't need to be platooned or plugged in or out. I can really hold it down in center field, and I think just receiving that opportunity here is great. So I'm just looking forward to proving that every single day and taking on that workload and being that centerpiece that the Giants are looking for, and just going to play the best of my ability as often as I can. So. Outside of the money and all that stuff that people love talking about free agency, having a landing spot for opportunity is most important.
I think you had reverse splits last year anyway, so they can't even platoon you if you didn't make it easy for them. So,
see,
it's not a great place usually for hitters in free agency, but you are pretty, like, when you get the ball in the air, it's pull side. It is a pretty fair ballpark, I think, for the most part. Did that play into it at all for a right-handed hitter, that your home runs for the most part are going to be okay at Oracle anyway?
That didn't play into it at all because I know that when you get it correctly, pull side, there's really no park that can hold that in. So, I wouldn't change my game if it was any different anyway. I think it's really just important to continue to do what you do really well at the plate offensively and set yourself up for that level of success. And regardless of the park, I think, you just need to take your best swing as often as possible. So, listen, if anything, there's a lot more space in other parts of the park, which I haven't necessarily had in the past. Some balls that may have been caught in right center or right maybe will get over their head because it's kind of a short porch. But I think the intent as a hitter still remains the same, and you want to work to your strength as a hitter. So I think with regards to that, if you do it properly and well enough, I don't think any park will kind of keep you in. So I'm hoping that plays well for me this year.
I think a lot of Giants fans probably know that you had a pretty good run down the stretch last year in Philadelphia in some pretty big games. And your postseason success with New York, I mean, some huge moments there as well. What do you think allows you to be so comfortable in those tight spots?
I think in those, those playoff situations, all the pressure is kind of off of you because it's been such a long season up until that point, and getting to the playoffs is an accomplishment. So when you think about what it looks like to kind of seal the deal and get to a World Series and win a World Series, I think all the pressure is taken off of you individually to perform, and you really change your mindset towards what does the team need from me today, especially in big moments or big situations. If you're doing things solely for the team or, for like the playoff big at bat or big play, when you're focusing on things far bigger than your own performance, I think your game opens up tremendously, and the pressure actually alleviates and stuff starts to slow down because it can be very loud, and obviously the guy on the mound is most likely very talented. So shaving off all those factors and just honing in on the baseball, I think really good things happen. So when people think that the pressure goes up, in many ways I think we work towards again alleviating that. So had some success and want to do it again, obviously in these colors.
The big story, other than the newcomers, is the new manager here, Tony Vitello, and you're a Florida guy in college. He was in the SEC. Did you cross paths with him at all, or did you hear about him at all before you decided to come here?
Yeah, I'm very familiar with him. My head coach, Kevin O'Sullivan at UF, was very, very close friends with him. So as this kind of process was picking up, he got wind of it, and Sully reached out to me and obviously had the best things to say about Tony. And experiencing him now for a couple of days, I think the biggest thing that will matter the most over the course of a very long season where, inevitable ups and downs will take place, is just maintaining that energy, which he has. Seems to be a very positive guy, but he's also very realistic, I think, which is also very important because we can never be too inflated one direction or the other about whatever might be happening. So I think with energy and being realistic and someone who's willing to just stay in the trenches with you, it's very easy to play this game when everything's going well. But it's the guys who are still there when it's challenging, I think is what allows teams to move in the right direction and get themselves out of it, because those things are inevitable. So I think Tony brings a lot of energy, brings a lot of passion. He cares a lot about the game, understanding his history more and kind of how he got here. He's given a lot to baseball, and in many ways that's what it takes. So I'm excited to work for him. I'm excited to work with him. I just think that I think he's certainly built for the long season. So I'm looking forward to it.
I don't know if you know this, but Hauser and Malley are like right near the top of the guys you face the most in the big leagues, and I guess part of that was the division there. What are the challenges of those two guys when you're in the box?
Yeah, that was back too when they were, we had the old schedule, so we were playing in-division opponents far more often than we are now. So I guess it makes sense that I have as many at-bats and experience off them. I think the big thing about what they do is that they're very consistent, They're consistent in how they attack guys. I think they're workhorses. They stay healthy. For the most part, we all run into things here and there, but having the ability to put up long seasons of 30-plus starts and be able to bounce back from some stuff, I think contributes to how good a guy's work ethic is. So, when you have a pitcher who's experienced, who has a really good work ethic, who's disciplined, I think, they're going to have a lot of success. So I think they bring a good variety of stuff in terms of what they throw. And again, I think as long as they just stay healthy and they focus on what they do really well, they'll be as challenging as they were when I was in the Central on this team. So I'm excited for them.
You kind of mentioned what you tell kids in New York. I don't know that I've heard many players recently kind of be so self-aware about, and you said this on the initial call with us, there's like limited time to do this and you're going to enjoy it. How would you explain that mindset that you have of that you're just going to enjoy every moment because you know that there's only so much that you can do out there?
The biggest thing is just playing where your feet are. I think baseball players are trained so intensely to focus in on whatever's directly in front of us, but the guys who can use past experiences kind of as like a rear view mirror, if you will, to learn from them and then, adapt and adjust for the current moment, I think will allow you to kind of have a nice blend of reminding yourself where you came from and how challenging it was to come here, but also be reassured that you do have a lot left in front of you. And I think we lose that if we look too far ahead. You know, if you're a young player who's trying to work his way through the minor leagues, if you're a young player who doesn't know what school to go to, I think at the end of the day, baseball is so connected that you will end up in the major leagues if you belong in the major leagues, but in order for you to get there, you have to remain present. So I guess to answer your question, I just know how hard it was to get here, and furthermore, I know how hard it is to stay here. And even further than that, I know how hard it is to have success here on a continued and sustained level. So I just think using and reminding yourself of how fortunate you are, I think allows you to kind of take the present moment for what it is, which is a beautiful and just awesome thing to experience. So I try to stay in that little, that little dome, if you will, and just keep chugging along and rack up as many wins and hopefully a ring as possible.
All right, my last thing for you, because a lot of fans have asked me this, are we going to see Bader tots in any form, or is that a thing of the past?
Yes, absolutely. So obviously my last name is Bader, so the Phillies were fantastic. I try to do as much as I can with the charities I'm involved with. So we raised a lot of money for the Christian Rivera Foundation, which is a foundation in New York City, based out of New York City, that we generate a lot of funding for a very challenging brainstem cancer in children. So I had Bader tots in Philadelphia, which was awesome. And now the playoff of my last name is not going to be like Bay, like B-A-Y, Der Tots, which plays great. So hopefully we can do something similar where we're raising money for charity through food, through like a fun playoff of one of the Giants players. And I think it's great. I think we might maybe, thinking out loud now, maybe some like Old Bay seasoning with that, just something fun. But definitely want to integrate Bader tots in San Francisco. And I had them in Philadelphia. They were fantastic. I love tater tots, so hopefully we can bring them to the West Coast.
All right, we will find a way to do something there.
So.
Harrison,
Awesome.
Welcome to San Francisco. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much.